Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to one of our In Conversation series. Today, I'm excited and delighted to be welcoming three people to the call, so it's not just our usual one-to-one. We're joined on the call today by Ian, who is in Norwich, I think, today, and Amit and Kaushik, who are down in Calcutta in India. Hello, guys. Nice to see you.
Same here, Paul.
Yeah,
See you, Paul.
same here. Very
Great.
nice
Well,
to see you again.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for becoming mission partners. Of course, you guys are representing Geotech, and you've joined fairly recently, so we'd love to know a little bit about Geotech, the business, how it started, what you do, that sort of thing. So I'm going to pass this over to you and let you tell us your story, please.
Yeah, let me just start it from the very beginning, like 2002, when Geotech started. I'm one of the co-founders. We started off as an Indo-German joint venture company, and together with our German partners, who are now a BCG Group company, and we developed an award-winning software, an e-procurement software, over 6 years' time, and we got some very good clients who actually use that software across, not only across Germany but also across Europe. And during all these 6 years, and later on also when we were developing softwares for other Western countries, like Western European countries, like Finland, Sweden, the Netherlands, we actually observed a high demand of software development engineers all across Europe, which we identified as a big gap there, which they could not fill in with only the local people. So observing that gap, we found that that's a very good market for us to step in and provide those kind of software development people. And down the line, when like after 20 years, we have thought of the same thing, bringing in UK, our Geotech UK entity, starting it and filling in some really important gaps in a different way.
Maybe we can come back to that a little bit later as well, but I'm also curious because I ask this of everybody we sort of talk to when you speak to sort of entrepreneurs, how you all met and what was the drive? Because Ian, of course, some of the viewers of this will recognize your face from your days within Mission, of course. But how did you guys meet? What's the story?
Well, look, I can start from it. My route into the mission really started in 2015. I sold my advertising and marketing agency to the mission group. I was paired with Big Dog at the time, and that later merged into Crow. I've been there for 8 years. And during that period of time, I've been lucky enough to pick up a number of non-exec roles, which has been great, primarily in my real passion, which is digital. And I was introduced into Geotech through one of the main investors in another project that I was involved into that, and I was then introduced to Kaushik and Amit at that time. So that's how I got involved with Geotech.
Amit and Kaushik, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, I was actually running this company, and in 2014-15, when the company was not in the best of its shapes, this person stepped into my life and the company, like Geotech. And as we always say, like you can actually identify the best friends in the worst times.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. Until then, I think we have only grown.
It's great, and it's obvious you guys have a dynamic which is really interesting, and I think with the connection with Ian, of course, that the whole story starts to make a lot of sense where you're going and why you're with us in Mission Hubs. I'm also very curious. I mean, I've been to India a number of times, and I love the dynamism and the excitement because India has changed so much from a business perspective over recent years, but also societally. I mean, notably, there's the sort of changes that have happened in the technology space, which you'll be very au fait with, information technology, and of course, the wonderful space program. But from your perspective, what do you think is really driving this change? And I guess I'm pushing this question towards Amit and Kaushik here.
Okay. So basically, as you know, India is all about its people. And it's not just about the numbers, but what these people can offer to the globe. So I think though this rise can seem very meteoric and might seem it's just happened a few years ago, but probably the seeds were laid way back uh, when India first went into a open economy, right? So we were a kind of a more traditional closed economy. From there, we went into an open economy model where we actually opened our doors to the entire world with two long-term goals. Number one, to establish India as one of the largest consumer markets. And number two, to actually show to the world that we have a number of talented people whom can be used by other countries and other organizations from different countries at a very cost-effective manner. So those were the seeds that were planted, and from there we worked on our infrastructure, our education program, science and technology. It has been a number of through a number of government as well as private initiatives. And as a result, today, as we stand, India produces around 16 million graduates in science and engineering every year.
That's
So,
extraordinary.
yeah, yeah. So that's science and technology alone. Live the other, things, leaving out other things. So, a lot of them has also been involved in making the country better itself, its infrastructure better. And I think a big example of that has been our space program, our supercomputer program, Param. So, where we have used our indigenous technologies to build things which are world class and is now being used by the entire world.
Amazing.
And apart from that, I guess there's one particular quality in Indians that we didn't recognize as a special skill set. I think that is understanding and accepting diversity. So we grow up with diversity and we know how to adapt to diversity pretty quickly. And that gives us an edge when I think of a global scenario where you have to adapt to a globally changing scenario in technology and science. So that's where we naturally fit in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I guess these two factors have been really, really very important for India to shine. And obviously the COVID. Uh, I mean, when I look at COVID, it's been bad for the humanity as a whole. It's been really painful. But that has opened the geographical barriers, and now sitting in India, you can work for a company in Australia, UK, or even USA. So now you are a really global employee where you can contribute from anywhere in the globe, typically India, sitting here and contributing to the growth of the organization that you serve. And that I think has had a tremendous effect in this growth scenario that we notice today.
Okay. I mean, just to touch on one of the themes there that you mentioned, which is obviously about diversity. And one of the the reasons I do what I do is because I love learning about different people, different cultures, and how we interact and can work together. Um, and I mean, you touched on it, and the proposition that you have here is about bringing the cultures together to work together to achieve a better end. And we'll come a little bit to that in a minute. But I was wondering, for those watching who perhaps have not worked with an Indian business before, or perhaps looking to enter into the Indian market, are there any tips that perhaps you might share with us? Sort of watch out things to do, things not to do, typical mistakes that people make, or ways to embrace what India is and how the business community works. Sorry, that's a really big question.
Yeah. I'll try to be as brief as possible. So, I mean, as I said, that there are two ways in which you can do business in India, because, as I said, that the long-term goal of the open economy was twofold. One is being a big consumer market, so you can either sell in India And number two is providing a global workforce. That part is called Make in India. So these are the two ways in which we can do business with India. Uh, when you are actually selling in India, I think it's very important to identify the customer segment you are targeting, because India, being a very big country, has a number of customer segments, which ranges from, say, people who are more brand conscious and to people who are totally value conscious. I mean, the price conscious also. So if I look at it in that way, you must first choose your customer segment wisely if you're working in India, because otherwise you might have the best product, but you might not launch it for the right target market, and that won't work. Similarly, when you are making in India, I think it's also very important to understand the Indian culture, the Indian values, because most of the people you'd be working with would be Indians. So you should understand that we come from a hugely diverse culture. So people in different states, it's like traveling to different countries, right? Different food, different language, different customs. Uh, so I think that's where the understanding of diversity comes in if you were thinking of making in India. Kaushik, do you have anything to add to it?
I think one important point which Amit already touched was the value for money.
Mm.
It's like it's specially meant for a large segment of customers, not exactly the very high segment who are totally brand conscious, but for the maximum segments of customers, maximum people, they are very much aware of the value for money. They look for value for money. What exactly there are people who are ready to spend, but they want to know exactly what we are getting with that money. So that is one very important thing. Which and yeah, if somebody like a company, a big software company, if they want to like they're wanting to come in, they want to develop something over here, also actually selling their brand but to the people over there. So that's also a very good and very important thing, how you present your brand there, so that people would be coming would be attracted to your brand, would love to come and work there.
I'd like to come back a little bit, if I could, to the relationship that Geotech is forming with the Mission Group, and specifically Mission Made. And Ian, I think this is probably addressed to you. Maybe you could talk a little bit to what's happening and how you see the Geotech entering into the UK market and what you're doing with Made.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a natural fit. As I mentioned to you before, Paul, I think there's some great advantages to the sort of traditional outsourcing of development work and resource. Everyone knows that, but it also comes with its own set of unique challenges. And most of those really revolve around, as we said, we talked about the language and the culture and the time differences. So what we want to do coming into the UK market is to try and put an on-the-ground team in. So basically we get the best of both worlds with it. We get all the project management and the account management, also access hopefully into the UI and UX part of it, but we get with the super talented development resource, which we know we've got back in India. We're very agnostic, so we can work across multiple different sorts of platforms. It's about finding out what's important for the client and the best technical solution to do it, and then working and developing that side of it. So when we originally thought about that sort of as a concept coming into the UK, we were thinking about accessing into freelance networks to be able to do it. Paul, you're like me, a little bit longer in the tooth, so we've been around the block a bit. So obviously we've got lots of access into a network of people which we can use. And then really just probably for my time in the mission, and also actually working with Mission Made, which when I was at Crow, I used to use Mission Made for a number of the clients that I was working with. I suppose it was a bit of a sort of penny drop moment, really. And I thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity there to actually work with the mission. I was introduced to you and to Mission Hubs. And for me, it just, as I said, just seemed like a natural fit for us. So instead of me having to go out and find individual freelance resources, actually, we've got it ready made up within Mission Hubs itself. So our reason to join Mission Hubs as a partner wasn't necessarily to sell Geotech into all the mission agencies. It was really actually as a proper partner. It gives us now, I think, that added weight to be able to go into the UK marketplace with a partner who we know and we can trust. We know they've got the resources capable of being able to manage and run teams, but also the experience and expertise to be able to to be able to deliver it.
And I think that's the really interesting thing there is it's to use that expression, a slight reimagining of how, you know, the traditional outsourcing model works, but equally you're using best of both worlds to deliver something into market, which I think is a smart thing to be doing. I mean, talking about smart things, I guess, I mean, I ask this of a lot of people. I mean, we live in interesting times at the moment, you know, as time of recording this, we're on the verge of a general election here in the UK. I know India's had a big election recently. And of course, we've got the US elections, which will impact most of us around the world in one way or another coming up towards the end of 2024. So I wonder, guys, I mean, what are the big challenges that you see in your business and perhaps more broadly as well, societally, and also sort of in the industry as a whole, as we look towards the rest of this year, maybe to the start of 2025, which is horrific when you think we're halfway through 2024 already. But anyway, that's the question. I
suppose if you go back over the years, the biggest one has obviously been the pandemic. I think whilst it's been obviously an awful thing to go through for most economies, I think in terms of what it's been able to do, is it's kind of made people far more comfortable actually outsourcing and working remotely. So I think it's always been there, but I think there's absolutely been no doubt that the pandemic has made us far more comfortable about reaching out to different people in different areas. And to be honest, it's about finding the best resource to be able to be able to do that. So, I mean, certainly, as I said, I would say the pandemic has been a big part of I think, suppose, changing the way that people do different sorts of things.
Cool.
For me, I think I always tell, like, because we are primarily like selling service, you know, any of our client or any of our prospect which we are talking to, I always say that because we are selling service, you will not experience us before you try us.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're not selling a product where we can just showcase. It's not a Samsung or Apple phone. Okay, this is the phone, this is the product. See how good this is. It's not like that. So our main challenge is that to make the people try us and see us, what we deliver, because we are very sure once they try us, they will use us.
I think that's a really interesting point, Kaushik. And of course, for any of us in service-driven world, I mean, agencies especially, that stands true. I'm just conscious of the time. So I guess, Amit, I mean, if we want to reach out, anyone wants to get in contact with Geotech and has a project, what's the best way to do that?
Depends on where you are from. So if it's in UK or in any other parts of Europe, the gentleman, Mr. Hunter, is the point of contact for you. He will guide you through the process and give you the best of the both worlds, as he has already said. If you are from India or say in the Southeast Asia or maybe in the Gulf or a place which is nearer to India, it's best to get in touch directly with us. You can get in touch with us via our LinkedIn, via our website also. So that's the way we prefer people to get in touch with us.
Perfect. That makes sense given the time zones, etc. Gentlemen, speaking of time, we're almost out of time. So I really wanted to thank you so much once again for your time with us. Thank you for becoming mission partners. I think it's an exciting model that you guys have. We're really looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks, Paul.
much, Paul.
Yeah.